So we are looking at our Unit 5 notes packet, and we looked at questions 1 and 2 yesterday because we talked about average and we talked about mode and we talked about median, just as sort of a refresher of those key terms that we're going to need sort of as we work throughout this unit. Today, I want to look at these questions with a little bit of a different perspective, okay? So I want to look at the types of responses that we would get for each of these questions. What types of answers would I expect to get? So question 1, on average, how many letters are in the last names for students in this class? So we're not actually going to figure out that average today, but I want to know what type of response would I get? Namely, would I get a number for an answer or would I get something else? So what would we get for an answer for this first question? A number or something else? A number, right? How many is a question that's going to lead me to a number. And then the other thing I want to know for today is, will this number that I get be the same for every class, or could it possibly change? So the average for your class, would I expect to have exactly the same average for every other class that I teach? No, right? They may be similar. Maybe your average is 7 letters and my 6th hours or my 5th hours average is 8 letters. They may be close, but I would not be surprised if there was some variation there. So this could change. That answer could change. Question number 2, I want to look at the same types of things here. Which month has the most birthdays from our class? So what kind of response would I get for this question? A number or something else? Something else, right? You're going to give me a month of the year. Something that's not a number. And then would I expect the response, whatever is the month with the most birthdays, to be the same for all of my classes? Probably not, right? Maybe in this class, I have a lot of March birthdays, and in my next class, I have a lot of August birthdays. That could change based on who's in the class. So this could change. That response I get could change. And then for question number 3, how many student desks are in this classroom? So if I ask you guys, how many student desks are in this classroom, what type of response are you going to give me? A number, right? You're going to tell me there are blah, blah, blah desks in this room. If I ask my next hour, how many desks are in this room, would I expect the answer to stay the same or change? Stay the same. Yeah, I've had the same number of desks in here since August, so I would expect that answer to stay the same. So these are the 2 ideas that we're going to focus on for today. The types of responses I can get and whether I would expect them to always be the same or if there's a possibility that they could change based on the day, based on who I ask, based on a particular group. Okay, those are the big ideas we're going to look at for today. Questions for me so far? Okay, go ahead and turn to page 2 for me, please. So we're going to put some vocabulary to these ideas. There are 2 types of data that we consider when we talk about statistics. And it's related to that question I asked you, is my response going to be a number or not? If my response is a number, we call that quantitative data. Like a quantity is an amount, a number of something. If my answer is a number, if my response is a number, that's quantitative data. So this could be a measurement of something like your height. It could be how many desks are in this classroom. But quantitative data gives me a number as a result. The other type of response I could get is called categorical. So categorical could be a description. It could be a particular category of something. The example listed here would be a cell phone brand or hair color. The big idea is that it's not a number. Not a number if it's categorical. That make sense? Okay. So from our questions on page 1, you guys right here, I want to know which of these questions are going to give me quantitative data and which of them are going to give me categorical data. So which of these questions give me quantitative data and which of them give me categorical? One would definitely be quantitative. That's going to be a number, right? What type of answer are you going to give me for 2? Categorical, right? Because it's going to be a month, right? 1 and so 3 would be our other quantitative one, right? Because again, you're going to give me a number there. So quantitative versus categorical. Am I getting a number for a response or something else? The other question that I asked you at the start relates to our second idea here, which is what really is a statistical question, okay? So the idea behind a statistical question, or at least a good statistical question, is that I would expect that my result could change, my data, my answer could change based on who I ask, who I include in my survey, okay? That means that statistical questions have what we call variability, okay? That ability to change is what we call variability, okay? A non-statistical question is going to have the same answer, the same result every time. So if the answer could never ever change, it's always going to be the same, that's non-statistical. If there's a possibility that it could change, that's statistical. So if we look back at questions 1, 2, and 3 from page 1, which of these are statistical questions and which of them are non-statistical? So how about question 1, statistical or not? Statistical, right? We said this could change based on who's in the class. What about question 2? Statistical. That answer could also change based on who I have in class. And then what about question 3? Non-statistical. I'm not changing the amount of desks in my room every period of the day. So that one's going to be constant. Same answer every time. I would like you now to take a minute and come up with an example of a non-statistical question. Anybody want to share their non-statistical question? How many seasons are in a year? Yeah, that's a great example of a non-statistical question. That's going to be the same answer every time, no matter who I ask, no matter when I ask them. That's a great example of a non-statistical question. Anybody else have one they'd like to share? Earlier today, I heard how many continents are there on Earth. That's a good example of a non-statistical question. That should be the same answer every time I ask it, no matter who I ask. I think mine was how many classrooms are there in MTHS? To be fair, that answer did change last school year, right? Because they rebuilt a section of our school, but now we expect that number to remain constant, at least for a period of time. Now take a minute and give me an example of a statistical question. Jot down an example of a statistical question. Somebody give me your statistical question. Sean, what'd you write for your statistical question? How many people? So that would depend based on the room I'm in, right? Yeah. Anybody else want to share theirs? How much snow falls each year? Yeah, that's a really good one. And we'll actually see a similar question in just a minute related to precipitation. But yeah, I would expect that that probably changes from winter to winter. I had, what's the average height for our class? That's probably going to change a little bit every hour. I've got some tall people in this hour. I have other sections of Algebra 1 where I have people who are not quite as tall as some of you. So yeah, I would expect those answers to change. That would make it a statistical question. Very good. Questions for me so far? Okay, so let's take a look at number 3 down at the bottom. I want to know, are each of these variables quantitative or categorical? So shoe size, quantitative or categorical? Quantitative, why? Yeah, if I ask you your shoe size, you're going to tell me a number. So this is quantitative. What about hair color? Categorical. If I ask you for your hair color, you're going to tell me something like brown or red or green, maybe, right? If you told me your hair color is 5, I'm not going to know what that means. This is categorical. What about ID number? Quantitative. So this one actually gets a little bit tricky. I'm actually going to put quantitative / categorical because it kind of depends on how that number is set up. So for your guys' student ID numbers, they're all digits, correct? Okay. But we could also think of something like a license plate as an ID number, right? That's a number associated with you and your vehicle. Are license plates all digits? They usually have letters mixed in there too, okay? So depending on how I'm using that ID number, could be one or the other. What about number of siblings? That's quantitative. Yeah, you're going to give me a number. If I ask you how many siblings you have, you're going to give me a number. That's quantitative. Okay, on page 3, we've got one more thing I want us to look at together. We have 7 different questions here on the top of page 3. Some of them are statistical questions and some of them are not. I would like you to take the next couple of minutes, look at these questions 1 through 7. You don't have to answer the question. I just want you to tell me if it's statistical or not. So circle any questions that are statistical questions. So let's look at which of these are statistical questions. Number 1, what is the typical amount of rainfall for the month of June in Illinois? Is that a statistical question? Yes. Is it going to be the same every June? No. Okay. Would I expect it to be similar? Yeah. But I would, again, expect some variability. I wouldn't expect it to be exactly the same. So that's a statistical question. Number 2, how much did it rain yesterday at the Mexico City International Airport? Not statistical. So if I looked up the rainfall for yesterday, January 6th, 2021, I'm going to get some number, right, for how much it rained at this airport. If I look up that stat again, how much did it rain at this airport on January 6th, 2021? If I look that up tomorrow, is it going to be a different number for January 6th? No. However much it rained yesterday is how much it rained yesterday, and that number is not going to change. So that's not statistical. What about number 3? What kind of music do you listen to? Not statistical? Is there anybody that said that is statistical? Why did you say it is statistical? So we've had a little debate on this today on whether or not number 3 is statistical or not. I think that you can make an argument either way for number 3, so I'm going to kind of half circle it. So Drew's argument for why it's statistical is you may listen to different types of music. So if I ask you today versus if I ask you next Tuesday, maybe you're listening to something different. You could also, I think, fairly argue, well, if I only really listen to one kind of music, then that answer is not going to change. So this one, I think you could argue either way. What about number 4? How many songs do students usually listen to each day? This one's going to be statistical, right? I'm looking at a group of people. So depending on who's in that group may change my answer. That's a statistical question. For number 5, how many songs did you listen to today? So let's say I ask you at the very end of the day, how many songs did you listen to? Statistical or not? For today, you're going to give me the same answer, right? If I ask you on Thursday, January 7th, how many songs did you listen to? And you pull up your, like, whatever shows you how many songs you listen to, wherever that is found, that's not going to change. It's going to be set at the end of the day. You listen to 10 songs, or you listen to one song, however many that was. Number 6, what's the capital of Canada? That's not statistical, right? That they're not moving the capital around. It's the same place. It's been the same place for a while. How about number 7? How long does it typically take for second graders to walk a lap around the track? Statistical, yeah. We're looking at a group, and the people in that group could change, okay? Maybe this second grade class walks really fast, and this second grade class walks really slow. I would also expect that maybe that time is a little bit different depending on when I have them walk around the track, right? If I had them walk around the track first thing in the morning versus maybe right after lunch, I might get some different times. That would be a statistical question. Questions for me for today? Okay, so those big ideas were quantitative versus categorical data and statistical versus non-statistical questions. What I want you to work on now is your homework assignment, which are these 3 Khan Academy assignments. These are assigned to you in Khan Academy. So there's one that is a sort of review of what we talked about today, and then there are a couple that are going to preview or intro what we're going to talk about for tomorrow.